Yum diddy dum bum bye da da, yum bye da da dum bye, yum diddy dum bum bye da da, yum diddy dum bum ba da da, yum diddy dum bum bye da da, yum bye da da da.
So we welcome you on-site, everyone. In-site and on-site. Good to see your faces. The Shabbos, our second Shabbos, of what we hope to be a steady course towards, God willing, staying mask-free. At least those of you who are unmasked, and all of you who are here. We're so happy that you're here with us, physically on the site. And whether you're here on the ground floor or in the bima above, we're so happy you're here. And also in the Zumagog, welcome. As we welcome angels, we welcome Shlemut on page 6 in your Sidurim, the words of our ancestors, as we welcome the Malachei HaSharet, the angels, the angelic presence, friends, family, past, present, future, across the globe and around the corner. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bohem Leshalom, Malachei HaShalom. Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzidchem Leshalom, Malachei HaShalom.
Page 7 and 8. As we chant together Higel and I think this beautiful phrase from this poem about the beloved friend, imagining God as a beloved friend, or the divine presence as that which won't leave you, even if you don't return the phone call after a long time. Even if you're in an argument with God or you're drifted away, the beloved friend is there. And this phrase, Higalena, revealed please, and then spread over us a shelter of peace, is very real, I think, in every moment, at this moment, as we see our brothers and sisters, 3 million some odd refugees, pouring out of their home, out of their shelter to a place, and hoping that people will open up their doors, hoping that they'll find safety and security, knowing that they've left behind fathers, brothers, sons, uncles, millions of others. So we pray tonight for the shelter and peace of all of those who are seeking it tonight, wherever they may be. May the face of the stranger be a face of hospitality and of homecoming until God's sukkah of peace is restored. Higalena.
Higale, gale, gale, ufros, chavivi
Spread your loving, sheltering presence. Etsuka. Suka. On page 9 and 10. שניסוני אבוסיכם לחנוני, גם ראו פועלי.
40 שנה אקוט בדור ואומרם טועה לבבהם והם לא ידעו דרכי אשר נשבעתי באפי עם יבון אל מנוחתי.
On page 11 and 12. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל העם, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בעשו יום ליום ישועתו, סהרו בגויים וגבו טוב. I
Yai, dai, 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 do.
Page 13 and 14 of the Namalach Eish lefanav teilech, v'sleitz avitzarav yirvachav dev. Shama v'day simach tzion, v'tagyan v'naf siyuda l'may mishpat avitav. Nabei Adonai sinenu ra, shomer nafshos chasidav, miyad yishayim v'yad tzilem. Zaru ala tzadik, uli yishrein leim simcha, simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, ve'odu lezecher kodsho. Zmu shir Adonai shir chadash on page 15 and 16. Am hayam umilu tevel v'yoshvei v'yardim chalchav yachad abim yiralinu livnei Adonai kivam lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel b'tzedek ve'yamim b'mei sharim. Page 17, Adonai Malach Yirgezu amim yoshev kiruvim Romemu Adonai Gemishach v'ladam raglav kadoshu Moshe mi'aron b'chonav u'shmo b'korei shemo korim el Adonai v'yaneim V'amud anan yidaber aleichem Shamru eidosa v'chok nasam lamo Adonai Eloheinu Atam anisam v'vam Eno seyo yisalohem Ve'eno kemal yosam Raimemu Adonai Eloheinu V'yishtachav l'harkot l'sho Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Please rise if you are able on page 19 and 20, Psalm 29.
Dai dam dai dai ya da 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 dam da da. Dai dam dai ya bam 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 bam. Dinim dai dai dai. Dinim dai dai bam bam.
Hadras komodesh, ol Adonai alamayim, el hakavod yibim, Almayim rababim, Amo Shalom. You may be seated, everyone. Poem for a poem on page 21 and 22 as we prepare to chant a poem attributed to Nechonia ben Akana, a prayer poem. This is from Ilana Klugman, a member of our community. May the beauty of the divine presence, Shekhinah, be our grounding. A command is heard as if an inner call. Always bring salt to your offerings, gathered from sea and tears. Fire and smoke, full moon and night, beauty, the concealed, the revealed commands. Don't just look for what you already know. We cannot stay locked in the castle. The castle is on fire. Make of your sea and tears salt. Too much is burning. The pillar of the tzaddik, balanced on the fin of the Leviathan, inevitably falls back into the primordial waters. From there we hear a call, a tzav, knocking on egg, uniting and dividing, zagat, notochord, as on the second day. Lower water separated from the upper, and longing was created, as was memory of who we are. Fish and wave, a filling well, a seed floating in the river altar, and the smoke of our offerings. A return of sea to vast, sweeping sky. One third of the way down, up from the bottom of the page.
Chavene Zokre Kedushatecha Yachid Ge'eh Le'amcha V'nei Zokre Kedushatecha
When you take the next 2 minutes to fully arrive before the Chadodi and inviting you to not do anything ornate, just to immediately arrive. No preparation to meditate, no I'm about to meditate. Is this the right way to meditate? Just an immediate turning of attention to your body and seeing how gentle it is, how easy it can be to just direct your own attention, to notice this cloud of sensation and perception, kinesthetic awareness, the feeling of skin, the feeling of pressure, back against chair, feet on the floor, maybe hands holding hands, maybe even feeling for the first time today in an intentional way your own face. Noticing what you notice when you bring attention to your eyes, to your forehead. And as you remain attentive and attuned to your body, to your sensations, a prompt. What does Shabbat mean for you this week? What is Shabbat telling you this week? And as you sit with that, noticing what arises for you to hold on to share maybe a dinner or wherever, or not. And then bringing awareness to what you hear. And just notice if you're leaning in to hear it, grasping for it. Just notice whatever sounds are available as you bring awareness to what you hear. And some of you might want to stay in this space. Feel free to keep your eyes closed. Those of you who would like to return to words and to Sidur, inviting you to gently open your eyes at your own pace. And to find the words of our ancestors, the words of Shlomo Alkabetz, the great poet, on page 23 and 24, Lecha Dodi.
Bezachor beriborecha Ishmiyanu Ela meyuchad Adonai echad Ushmo echad Leshem utiferet Velitchila Lechadodi Ligat kala Shabbat Kabbalat Lechadodi Ligat Kalat B'nei Shabbat Kabbalat Likrat Shabbat Lechu v'nelcha Ki hi mekor haberacha Merosh mikedem סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך אדוני ליראת קלה בני שבת מקבלה לך אדוני ליראת קלה בני שבת מקבלה מפגש מלך Lirat kala, b'nei Shabbat, Kabela, Adoni. Lirat kala, b'nei Shabbat, Kabela, Ibtari me'afar kubi, livshi b'nei Tifartechani, Aya b'nei Shai.
Turn to face Yerushalayim, invite you to remain standing. Page 27 and 28, Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. Tzadik Adamar Divrak Miras Balbandon Yizker Shesulim Beis Adonai Bechatzros Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yinovon Besevan Deshenim Verananim Yu Lechagid Ki Yashar Adonai Tzori V'lo Avla Savo on page 29 Adonai Malkehu Slavesh Slavesh Adonai Ozi Tazar Mikol Nos Mayim Rabim Mayim Rabim Adirim Adirim Bishpereyam Adir Bamarom Adonai Hayadir Bamarom Adir Bamarom Adir Bamarom Adir mamarom, adir mamarom Hashem, adir mamarom Hashem v'melusechanem nu'olescha kodesh, Adonai v'vavavai li'orech yamim. On page 113, we invite all of those who in this community are holding loved ones. Please consider saying those names out loud as we pray for healing on page 113. Also those in the Zoom Agag as well on the chat area. If you'd like to write the names in.
Healer of the broken-hearted, binder of their wounds, counter of uncountable stars, you know who they are.
ומחבש לעצותם למספר לכוכבים וכולם שמות זכרם Bless their ancestors. Bless and heal all of those whom we're holding in our broken hearts. May the Holy One of Blessing mend those tears and those fissures, those painful places in body, heart, mind, and in spirit. For this community, for all of those whom we hold, and also for the broader world. We pray for the day when all of humanity will be able to come together, all of God's children, all of God's creatures, in a place of shlemut, of wholeness and complete connection. May that day come soon. And on that day we'll sing together. Let it be so, may it be so, and let us all say Amen. You may have a seat, everyone. A couple of very brief announcements for all of you. See, I already know the announcements, so that's why it's for all of you. A couple of very brief announcements for all of you here, just to remind you. If you look on the screen ahead of you, we need greeters. For those of you who are here for the first time, I'm hoping that you'll stand up and say hello in a moment. But until you stand up and say hello, and we all greet you, we need people to greet. So it would be wonderful if people could greet at the door. We are the people of the door. So it'd be wonderful if we could, have some greeters. How many people here have ever been a greeter? Everybody been a greeter? Of course, okay. So how many of you have not been greeters yet? So the greeters, can you tell the non-greeters thus far how amazing it is when you're standing there and new people walk in and you're like, oh my goodness, welcome to this really warm community. How do you know it's warm? Right here. I'm the proof. Right? Isn't that, Peter, come on, that's what you did, right? So we need some greeters. Please, everybody, some volunteers. You can just email us at info@romemu.org, and that will be special, and thank you for your time and your service. We are officially 1 month out from Pesach. Passover is coming. It's always a month after Purim. And so this year we'll be having both Seders on-site and online. So friends in the Zumagog, don't worry, we got you covered. But also across the street we have a beautiful building. Hey, Jonathan. And we're going to be hosting a in-person Seder for the first time in 2 years. I know, I also want to cry. And not because of the motor, or the rest of it. It should be wonderful. We'll also be having services, obviously, throughout Pesach, and so thank you all for making a note of that. Also, sponsorship this entire month of March in honor of Irving Geduldig. Richard, he's probably here. There's Richard. Okay. Thank you so much for lifting up your fathers in the Shama through sponsoring this month's open book, our Parsha study class. If anybody in the Zumagog or anybody here would like to also follow suit, I think April, May, and June are all open, and so we left them open for all of you to take care of. And tomorrow morning, open book, our Parsha study will be at 8:45. Services at 10 o'clock. Done with the announcements, everybody. So now we get to the fun part. Anybody here for the first time? The chat is open. Any first-timers, we'd love to say hello to you. Trust me, if you put your name in, Aunt Jonah will be the first one to welcome you, and so will be, I think, a lot of other people as well. So anybody here want to stand up and say hi? They're here for the first time. Your name and maybe where you're from. That was non-pressure pressure. That was like just a little bit of pressure. Anybody want to say hi?
It's also a dead giveaway if you look around.
Exactly, it's okay. It always takes one person, right? What's your, there you go. Oh, it's awesome. Thank you so much for standing. I'm going to actually say that so that everybody on Zoom can also hear. So your name is Malka, was it? Gabriella. Gabriella, Hadassah, Sophie, Eliana, Hadassah, and lots of folks here. And Gabriella stood up on their behalf. So just so everybody knows, that's pretty awesome. Very courageous of you. Thank you for putting yourself out like that. That's awesome. Thank you for letting us welcome you. Anybody else want to say hi? Hey.
This is my fiance, I'm saying hi to both of us. This is not our first time here. Our first time here was last night for the Megillah.
Wow.
So this is, I guess, the second time here. I'm from Toronto, and she's from Denver.
Nice.
Regular.
Alicia, was that Alicia? Yeah. Alicia. And do you live here now, or are you just visiting?
I'm in school.
You're in school here. Okay. Second time is great. Second time is, chazaka. Tovim hashnayim min ha'echad. It's good to have twice. That's great. Nice to have you both. Thank you. And by the way, not everybody has to introduce somebody that doesn't want to be introduced, but I just love that that's like a trusting place for the two of you. I appreciate that. I really do. I really do. Anybody else want to say hello? I see some amazing people here. Okay. On online.
You get two more.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, yeah. Oh, nice. That's so awesome. Sometimes we get people to be like, my first time here, then my first time in a synagogue at all. And then I always say, like, yeah, every synagogue meets in a church. It's just exactly like this. But this is just your first time here. Okay, thank you for bringing, thank you, Josh. Yeah. First time in a very long time. Nice to have you from Murray Hill. Uri. Anybody else? Okay. pressure, enough pressure. Zach. From where did you say? Crown Heights where? You live in Cleveland Heights, and now you live in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. We have a little minute. We're all accustomed here. We're in Brooklyn, you know. Brooklyn. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate your standing up from the heights, different heights. We have some people online too. Let's see. Okay, 1 second. People online have been complaining that we're ignoring them. So I just want to say, is it okay if it was just a little from our sponsors online? Okay, here. Good Shabbos, Rosie, Mace, and Sarah from Geneva. Welcome. Good Shabbos. There's some loving going on between Roberta and Margot. All kinds of good things. And Joni, Rosie, and Mace, thank you for welcoming them. Alyssa, Marco just wanted us to have a big Brooklyn with exclamation points. And lots of Brooklyn. Okay, and now back to our on-site introductions. Yes.
My name is Steve. This is not my first time in Romemu, but it's my first time in the synagogue in 2.5 months where we just returned from Amman, Jordan for our prayers.
Oh, welcome back. He just came back from Amman, Jordan, where he was for 2 months, where there were no synagogues. It's not your first time here, he said. It's his first time in a shul, in a synagogue in a while because he was in Jordan. So welcome to the other side of the Ardennes. I appreciate your being here. Yes.
My name is Marcelo. I'm from Montevideo, Uruguay, South America, here with my wife, Alicia, or Nina. And we're visitors in the city, and we're visitors in this shul, in our house, in the community. And it happens to be our 33rd wedding anniversary.
No pressure.
What a
You get
party.
That was good. It came
What a
through.
party.
I know. Marcelo, and thank you. It's so good to see you.
Welcome to your surprise party.
What a wonderful, seriously, what a wonderful way to spend, to begin the evening. It's so good to see you. Mamash, Baruch Mechayim Mason. I think for a lot of us, last 2 nights ago, Purim night was remarkable here, at least in Shul. I don't know about other communities around the Upper West Side or around the world, but it was maybe 4 or 5 times the amount of people that are here were here on Wednesday night, and it really felt like something, again, was opening. And I know it's hard to hold all of that new opening with all of the other things that are going on in the world, and how those things mingle in us is really complicated, I know. But it just is, matov, it's just saying this is good. It's good to be with all of you. And it's good to be with all of you online, and the Chevra, wherever you are, and Ana Luisa in Mexico, and people in Israel, and people wherever they are. Particularly bringing my heart, mind into connection with Karen. I think I see you, Karen Bardash. This would be a moment, in the davening where someone who had lost a loved one would not have been in here for Kabbalat Shabbat, would then enter into community this moment and have the experience of being surrounded by people who are aware of what it is to feel disjointed, to feel both the joy of Shabbat with the grief of losing your father, who was a remarkable man. I just read a little bit about him, and I was so inspired. I thought to myself, I want to be an Abba like your father. That's what I felt when I read it, Karen. I thought, oh, what a mensch. What a beautiful person. He died at the beautiful age of 90. He was, had a beautiful life. And even though, the end is always difficult, you have such tender, sweet memories of him. And so we hold you at this moment also in this community that you are, you're missed in, because we know you're out in Long Island, but soon enough, God willing, you'll be here with Jose, and we'll be able to be with you as well, and we'll stand with you as well during Kaddish tonight. We invite the entire community to please rise for communal call to prayer. I'm tempted to say that somebody who wrote this song should come and lead it, but I have 2 microphones here.
Baruch Adonai.
You may be seated. אשר בדברם הריבה רבים מחוכמה בוטח שרים בתבונם ושליטים ומחליף על הזמנים וסרס וכוח המשרסים ורק יקר צבא יעלם הלילה גולה אין לך חיה וקיימת תמיד תמלוך עלינו לעולם ואין ברוכה את שכינה העריבה הערבים הני נא 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 הני נא 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 הני נא 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 hey na 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 hey na 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 hey na 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 hey na 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 Avat Olam on page 36 Basic Sulam Cha'ahavta We bring to mind just to have flashing before our own eyes and in the way that the heart opens like a quick aperture, people that we love and who have loved us at this moment. One of the great meditations in the Stoic tradition is called the last time meditation. Imagining that for a moment that was the last time you saw this or that or tasted this or felt this. And so each and every night as we prepare for Shema, we have passing before our own heart, mind, love. Who was the last one that loved you, the last gesture that we bring with us into this moment. Ki hem chayenu, v'orech yameinu, uvahem negayom hamalayla, ve'yovatecha al tasir. ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה יה אוהב עמו ישראל
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai
Page 39, 40.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה Netzach hayom aladecha Meshinatam levanecha V'dibartam bam neshivtecha V'v'laktecha b'derech U'shoch becha v'kumecha
Tama mizuzot b'yisecha v'yisharecha v'yayim shemot yishmom et motzai
B'neinecha
Shanochim et zeves kamim v'yavai Yisod v'yimach
B'techa u'v'yisharecha
V'chorom Avadonai b'chem Yisar Sashamayim L'yimator Make sure you plant seeds of love that you might reap what you sow. When you plant greed, you will harvest greed. ושם דמם וזאת ונסתר משאר למעי וימכם וימניכם היום אדוני משה לאמור דבר בני ישראל ואמרת להם יעשו להם ציצים גנב בסד החלץ ותחם לציצים ישם עשו וזכר תמצקו מצוות אדוני בזיסמות אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר רוצה יעשכם ארץ מצרים ליעוש לכם לאלוהים
on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates, in order that your days and the days of your children may be long on this earth. God promised to you, your ancestors, as long as the days of the skies above.
As our ancestors crossed the Red Sea, the Reed Sea, Moshe broke out in song, and so did the children of Israel. And then Miriam came. Miriam said, I don't know what Miriam said. Maybe she said, you call that a song? Or maybe she said, great song, now listen to mine. This Shabbat is the 100th anniversary of the first Bat Mitzvah in recorded North American Jewish life, and for that reason probably likely, period. The songs of our mothers, the songs of our sisters, the songs of all of those who, like Miriam, have a song that must be sung. Oh, the world is poorer for all of those lost voices, but so many more are coming and are here. May all of those voices be free. Nichamucha.
Adonai, Imo, Leolam,
Kivad Adonai es Yaakov gal mechazik mimenu v'rato Adonai Goal Yisrael.
Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'hamidenu Malkeinu L'chaim Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Malkeinu
Eloheinu Leshalom
Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim.
We pray for peace. Rise if you are able. Ufros Aleinu, Sukat Shlomecha, Baruch Ata Adonai. Pores Sukat Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Amo Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'al Yerushalayim. On page 51 and 52, Shamru. Shamru B'nei Yisrael, Emes HaShabbat, La'asos Es HaShabbat, Ledoros Amris. Hey, hey, Be'egni, Uve'bnei Yisrael, Ozi, Yigelech, Yilecholam, V'ginei, V'yami, Es HaShamayim, U'vayom HaShavas, Vayinofash, Chatzi Kaddish on page 51 and 52.
Yidgadal ve'yidgadal Shemei Rabbah
Amen.
Ve'almadi v'rach yirutei ve'amlich malchutei B'chayechon
Om Yomeichon, Olchai lechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala,
Ba'gala Uvizman Kariv Ve'meru
Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Alam Yomei Almanya, Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitbar, Yitulomam, Yitnasei, Yishadar, Yisalev, Yisalal, Shmei Dekucha, Bechulei, Lamin Kovir Chasach, Veshirasa, Tushbecha, V'nechemos, Damiron Me'alma, Elerasei. The words of our own heart, or the words in the Siddur, or the images in the Siddur can be found on page 53 as we stand together.
say shalom bimromav uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Oh, say shalom bimromav uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen. Oh, say shalom bimromav uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen.
Over the course of the year of being away from New York, I was living up in New Paltz, and we had a wood-burning stove, actually a number of wood-burning stoves. And it happened to be that I had a vast interest in those stoves, not only because they provided heat, but we already had heat from a geothermal system. We had a lot of heat. But there was a wood-burning sauna next to the house. So I learned how to get a sauna going, and it's pretty laborious if anybody's ever done it. In general, just lighting a fire is pretty laborious and getting it to run, but then also making sure that the next day, after 5 hours of burning wood, you have to come in and clean out the ashes. And that was always a very messy part of the morning. And it was almost impossible to make it clean enough. But sure, you got rid of the ashes and allowed there to be a new fire to burn. And that experience of the necessity of cleaning the ashes, but the inevitability of never being cleaned from them, really opened my heart to something that I'd read 1,000,000 times in my life, because it was my bar mitzvah portion. 40 years ago, on not this Shabbat, but on the Shabbat before Passover, it coincided with the reading of the portion of the week, that is this week's Torah portion. And the beginning of the Torah portion this week, which of course is in the book of Leviticus, the third of the 5 books of Moshe, is dealing with a mitzvah called Trumat HaDeshen, the lifting up of the Deshen. Deshen is the word for ashes. The priest would come in the morning after the sacrifices had been burning through the night. This particular sacrifice is called the Olah, which in English means the Holocaust offering, the fully burnt offering. That offering stayed on the altar all evening. Mokda al mizbeach kol halayla ad haboker, ve'esh hamizbeach tukad bo. And the fire burned through the night. And in the morning, when the priest would come in, the priest would find a heap of ashes. And the Torah tells us that the priest would wear beautiful clothing, or let's say nice clothing, midovad, made of linen, and ve'rimit hadeshen, lifting up the deshen, the ashes. They would lift up the deshen. And then it would place the deshen by the side of the altar, on the side over here. And then the Torah tells us this small detail. Ufashat et bigadav, velavash bigadim achirin. And now it's time for a costume change. The priest would take off his clothing. Ufashat et bigadav, he would, strip down, and wear new clothing. Important detail. Torah is not used to giving details like this. But apparently the clothing change is vital. And then he would take the deshen, the ashes, outside of the tabernacle. So the insight I had in my own haramata deshin, lifting up of the ashes. The inevitability of being unable to fully cleanse oneself from the ashes, but unable, without emptying the ashes, to light more fire. That insight into this also helped explain for me, or you'll see in a moment, I think it explains for me on some level, hopefully it's useful for you, a glaring question here in the text, which in moments. Is it because you're dirty? Well, what's the big deal? If you're already dirty with the ashes, you're only taking them now from the side of the altar outside of the tabernacle, so why the clothing change? What could be the significance of this clothing change? And I think that with the insight that I had, and also with an insight that I read this week from my teacher and friend and colleague, Rabbi Shaul Magid, Professor Shaul Magid, I think I can begin to make sense of this for me, for us, and for this moment. Shaul Magid, Rabbi Magid, wrote something that I won't ever forget, ironically, because it's about forgetting. In understanding this past holiday of Purim, or trying to make sense of a Purim at a time like this, at a time with a war in Ukraine, and with the opening up and all the things that are happening, Rabbi Magid drew our attention to a strange paradox that is embedded within the Purim story, within the Purim observance, within the Purim, the way that we have received it. He writes that remembering, of course, is a core tenet of Jewish life. From the beginning of the Bible tells us to remember. Remember God who created the universe on the seventh day of every week. Remember. Remember that you were once slaves in the land of Egypt. Remember. Zachor. But there's also another Zachor, another remember, which is remember Amalek. Remember this arch enemy of the Jewish people who the tradition says preyed on the vulnerable when they were leaving the land of Egypt, and whose ancestor was the arch enemy or the main character, the evil character in the Purim story. But Rabbi Magid points out very beautifully and poignantly and brilliantly that the verses in the book of Deuteronomy that tell us to remember Amalek, because they were the ones that struck you when you were vulnerable and you were leaving and you were hungry and tired, those same verses say that we are to erase the name of Amalek, mitachat hashamayim. We are to erase, macho timcha et zecher Amalek. We have to erase and blot out the memory of Amalek. And then the verses in Deuteronomy 25 end by saying, lo tishkach, don't forget to blot out the memory of the ones that you are to remember. And he recognizes that in this Mobius strip of verses, what is it? Remember them or blot them out? If you blot them out, you are no longer remembering them. If you remember them, then they're not entirely blotted out. Rabbi Magid says, in this, he says, is a powerful lesson. As we are about to make our way towards redemption, the remembrance of the Egypt saga is a remembrance of freedom and liberation. Purim is a remembrance of calamity, but also of redemption. He writes, Purim is an expression of the ambiguity of remembering and forgetting. There's a tradition to get so drunk on Purim that you can't distinguish between the evil Haman and the blessed Mordechai. This tradition evokes not memory, but its opposite, forgetting. By forgetting or erasing, we can reach the place where Haman and Mordechai are indistinguishable. At that moment, we actually forget that Haman did it to us, and thus fulfill the obligation of Purim. The remembrance of God's redemptive promise and the remembrance of the destruction of the temple and our almost death at Purim are two poles in the Jewish covenantal existence. And forgetting the lesson of Purim is a necessary way to live between these two poles. For Jews to be a part of the world, we must balance these two motifs of remembering and forgetting. If all we do is remember, we become slaves to memory, and if all we do is forget, we erase the legacy of the past and make covenant simply a matter of nostalgia. The current war in Ukraine, he writes, puts these two notions into sharp relief. and Jews in particular into a complex position. On the one hand, many Jews are tied to Ukraine through family. Ukraine houses some of the greatest cities of Jewish life, cities whose names still resonate as centers of learning and creativity. Berdichev, Chernobyl, Bratslav, Odessa. But Ukraine was also the site of some of the most horrific pogroms in our history. Its soil is soaked in the blood of Jews. Some say that Ukrainians during World War II acted more brutally even than the Nazis. That was 75 years ago, but the passage of time has not stopped many from holding societies accountable for their actions. Our support for Ukraine requires both remembering and forgetting. Remembering and forgetting. What is an ash if not the remnant of what once was? What is an ash, a burnt carcass, a burnt anything except a reminder of what used to be whole? Each and every morning, the priest was enjoined to come in and lift up the deshen, the ashes. To lift up, that was the calamity. To lift up what once was whole, once was flourishing, blooming, blossoming, and lift it off the altar. And then, placing it next to the altar, take off the garment and wear a new garment. Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch writes, the daily service begins with the lifting of the ashes, which recalls the previous day's service and the remembrance of God. But when clearing away those ashes, it signifies each new day renews our commitment to comply with what is new. To carry out the ashes in new clothing is to acknowledge the remnant of what was once, but a commitment to what yet could be. The ashes are forgetting and remembering. To remember what might have been, to regret it as we spoke about last week. To never be fully able to erase some memories. To not have to be expected to erase memories that are traumatic or painful. To believe deeply that we carry with us the imprint of the ashes of 2 years of not being able to see one another, that we carry together the ashes of 6 million human beings whose lives were taken, that we carry with us each and every day the continued reminder of human beings' brutality one to the other, of what it could look like and does look like when people forget who we really are. As communities, as a society, we live with those memories. But if we are slaves to memory, if we don't take off the clothing that we used to lift them and put on new clothing, says Rabbi Hirsch, if we don't use the power of intentional, conscious, compassionate forgetting, we can't write a new story. We can't write a new story. Ufasharet bigadav v'lavash bigadim achirim. You have to put on new clothing. If we don't believe it, then we can't actually make the journey from Purim to Pesach, because Pesach is about writing a new story. It's the same story. Here's Big Ben and there's Parliament. Here we are again. It's that time of year for the Seder. Is it the same story? Of course it is. Is it a different story? It has to be. I said to my class this week that for 40 years, 40 years since I read this parsha, I have a lot of ashes. Ashes, ashes, we all fall up. We lift the ashes. But I'm not that kid. I'm not even the one who was here last week completely. But that erasure that Rabbi Magid was speaking to, that macho emchet zech amalek, that erasure is not the erasure of complete obliteration. As I said to the class this week, it's like having a really thick lead pencil and you try to erase it. You can see the faint outlines of pain's past. You can see the faint outlines of what it was last time we were in this position. We can feel the faint outlines of coming back into life and thinking it's going to be exactly the way it once was. And over that series of ashes, which we can't fully clean ourselves from, ufashadet bigadav, new clothing, lift up the deshen. In Hebrew, the word deshen not only means ashes, but also fat. Yirvayun mideshen beitecha. We're at a moment now, as we make our journey from Purim to Pesach, where forgetting and rewriting is absolutely vital for ourselves, our communities, the world around us. We must believe that we can write a new story. That in the place where there was once pain and suffering, there might yet be alchemically gold from that lead. It's a blessing to each and every one of you in your own inner sanctum, in your own inner place, to work with that paradox of how you hold those ashes together with the new clothing you wear and where you take it. My prayer, of course, as I'm sure all of yours, is that in the coming weeks, we'll see an end to old stories being replayed and rehashed over and over again. And in their place, God, we'd like to see a new story, a new Torah come from you, of brotherhood and sisterhood, of common purpose and common connection. It is upon us to make that reality come to fruition. Please rise. V'hashevota.
V'hashevota el levavecha ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim.
V'hashevota el levavecha ki Adonai. Page 78.
Hu ha'Elohim.
ככסו בשורשיך דנים לך דיולו המבוהן ונאמר היד ונלמך על כל ארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני ושמו We invite you to remain standing if you are in mourning into this sacred space tonight, both in the chat as well as in the shul on site. We invite those who are remembering specific names of loved ones to say those names out loud. You can just, as we move around the room, just call out the name of a loved one. Marcy. Eden. Mark. Anna. Sarah Ford, David Gross, Candace Simmons, Jack Parchem, Nasha Bar Moshe Vesur Gittel, and Joni's mother, Shifra Bas Moshe, as well as all those names here, if you scan just to take in the names of loved ones. We also lift up tonight again Batya Okonov's father, Gabriel Kosakov, and of course, in the first week of mourning for Karen Bardesh's father, Manuel, Moshe ben Meir ben Malka, Shmuel Leib ben Asher ben Shifra, and all of those who are within the first year of having passed. If it is your custom to stand for the mourners, please rise. Mourners Kaddish on page 115 and 16, also on the screen in front of you. Remember Henry Lee. Yiskadal v'yiskadash shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divrach yirusei v'yamlich malchusei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam u'me'amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'turomam v'yitnaseh. V'yisadar v'yisaleh v'yisalal shmei dekusha brichu. Le'ilam mikol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechasa v'nechamasa da'amiram v'oma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlom Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel. Amen. Yizichram Baruch. May their memory be a blessing. We invite everybody to please rise and join those who are standing. So conclude the davening this evening with Kiddush. I'll tell you how tired I am. Tonight is. So a big yesher koach to our amazing davening team, to our rabbinic fellow Jackson Mercer, to Rich Stein, to Elliot Wolfson, behind on the AV, Grace, Natalia, Ryan, Victor, Justin Jr., and Freddie, all of those behind the scenes. Thank you so much. As well, tomorrow morning, just to let you know, not that you need any incentive. I know all of you, even if I don't know you, I know. Like the fact that a world-class teacher is teaching Parsha tomorrow morning, Rabbi Koloresis, no incentive, but there's a lot of Kiddush left over from our Kiddush on Purim morning. Just saying, there's breakfast and also, the people online love that. I don't know, you guys aren't laughing, but these guys, I'm just saying, the people here are hysterical. I'm looking at it, I can't, okay, anyway, but really, there's going to be Kiddush. On page 88, everyone, Yom HaShishi, Vayechulu HaShamayim v'charetz, v'chol tzevam, Vayichal Elohim b'yom HaShvi'i, Melachto asher asa, Vayishpos b'yom HaShvi'i mikol melachto asher asa, Vayivarech Elohim es yom HaShvi'i, Vayikadesh oso, Kivo Shavas mikol melachto asher bara Elohim nasos, Savri chavirai, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei pri hagafen, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu v'tosav ratzavanu, v'shabbat kol shabayav ratzon inchilanu zikaron. Remember the maaseh v'reishis, Ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher litzrayim kivanu charta v'yosanu im kol ha'amim v'shabbat Ahava u'beratzon Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh
Oh,
HaShabbat.
who say shalom bimroma, who yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen. Na'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei Tevel ve'imru Yiddy-rai-rai-rai-rai.